You ever notice how sometimes God will pull you out of the crowd, away from the noise, strip away the comfort, and leave you standing in what feels like a wilderness? You start asking questions like, why me, why now, why this? Because it doesn't feel like elevation when you're all by yourself. It feels like abandonment. It feels like rejection. It feels like you did something wrong. But can I tell you something? The wilderness is not punishment, it's preparation. See, we think the blessing is in the crowd, in the applause, in the visibility. But God does his best work in the shadows. You're not being left behind, you're being set apart. There's a difference. Some of you are in a season where nobody sees your effort, nobody claps for your faithfulness, and nobody validates your growth. You're praying, you're sowing, you're showing up, and still it feels like heaven is silent. But I came to remind you, silence doesn't mean absence. Sometimes God goes quiet because he's doing surgery on your soul. The wilderness is that sacred place where distractions die and dependence is born. It's where you stop needing everyone to understand you, because you start realizing they were never meant to. There are some roads you can only walk alone because the assignment has your name on it, not theirs. And I know it's hard. I know it's lonely. You look around for familiar faces, and all you see are echoes of who used to be there. But hear me, you are not lost, you are being led. The detour is still destiny. You prayed for growth, but you didn't realize that growth requires separation. You prayed for peace, but you didn't realize peace sometimes means solitude. You prayed for strength, but you didn't realize strength comes from resistance. God isn't punishing you, he's pruning you. He's cutting away everything that can't survive where you're going. And pruning doesn't feel good, but it's necessary, because you can't carry old branches into a new season. You keep saying, God, I feel like I'm losing everything. And he's saying, you're not losing, you're lightening the load. You're walking into a place that requires less baggage. That means some relationships can't go, some habits can't go, some mindsets can't go. You can't keep walking into destiny with a wilderness mentality. You have to trust that if God called you to it, he's already equipped you for it, even if all you see right now is dust and silence. When Jesus was led into the wilderness, it wasn't by the enemy, it was by the Spirit. Let that sit. Sometimes it's God himself who leads you into isolation, not to destroy you, but to develop you. Before he launches you, he hides you, because what's not ready can't be revealed. He'll put you in a place where you can't rely on applause, can't depend on affirmation, can't lean on people, because he's teaching you how to lean on him. That's why some of you feel the weight of loneliness right now. It's not punishment, it's preparation. You've outgrown certain environments, but you haven't yet stepped into the next one, so you're caught in the middle. That in-between is holy ground. Don't rush it, don't curse it. That's where character is formed, that's where vision is refined. That's where your voice stops echoing what everyone else says and starts resonating with truth. It's easy to worship when the lights are on and the crowd is shouting your name. But can you still worship when it's just you and God in the dark? When the doors you wanted to open stay shut? When the people you trusted walked away? That's where your faith gets real. That's where you find out whether you believe in God's hand or just his handouts. Because the wilderness will reveal what your worship is made of. Some of you are praying for confirmation, but God is giving you confrontation. He's confronting the insecurities, the fears, the dependencies that have been keeping you small. He's saying, I can't bless the version of you that's still afraid to be alone. I need the version of you that knows who you are even when no one is watching. You can't discover that version of yourself in comfort. You find it in the stillness. You find it in the quiet nights where you say, God, I don't understand it, but I trust you anyway. Don't mistake hidden for forgotten. The caterpillar isn't dead when it's in the cocoon, it's transforming. And transformation takes time. You may not look like what you prayed for yet, but you're closer than you think. Every tear, every lonely night, every unanswered question, it's part of the process. And when the process is over, you'll realize that what felt like isolation was actually insulation. God was covering you while he was creating you, so stop despising your alone season. Stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Stop wishing for the crowd when the Creator is sitting with you. There's revelation in your quiet season. There's oil being pressed out of your pain. There's wisdom being birthed in your waiting. You may be walking alone, but heaven's walking with you every step of the way. And one day, when the doors finally open and the light hits you, you'll know this isn't luck, this is legacy. This isn't coincidence, this is calling. You'll realize that you didn't just survive the wilderness. You became who you were meant to be in it. So don't rush your process. Don't fear the silence. Don't despise the solitude. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You ever been in so much pain that it felt like you couldn't breathe? The kind of pain that doesn't just touch your heart. It grabs your soul and shakes it until you start questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself, about life, about God. I'm talking about the kind of pain that makes you sit in your car for an extra 20 minutes because you can't even find the strength to get out. The kind of pain that makes you smile on the outside but break quietly on the inside. Yeah, that kind of pain. We don't like to talk about it, but pain has a purpose. We think pain is punishment when really it's the midwife of purpose. Pain births things that comfort never could. It pushes you into dimensions you didn't even know existed. It wakes up a strength you didn't know you had. If you never felt the sting of betrayal, you'd never learn discernment. If you never faced rejection, you'd never understand your own worth. If you never had to walk through loss, you'd never learn what it means to truly let go. Pain has a way of becoming a teacher even when you didn't sign up for the lesson. It'll sit you down, strip you of your pride, your plans, your illusions, and ask, who are you now? And if you let it, pain will build something sacred in you. Because every heartbreak, every closed door, every disappointment, it's not wasted. It's a contraction, and contractions mean something's about to be born. See, we love the idea of purpose, but we don't want the labor. We pray, God, use me, but we don't realize that to be used, you've got to be stretched. To be anointed, you've got to be crushed. The oil doesn't flow until the olive is pressed. So when you're crying out and asking, why does it hurt this bad? Maybe the answer is, because there's that much inside of you trying to come out. Some of you are in a season where you can't make sense of what's happening. People walked away, opportunities dried up. Plans fell apart. You're looking around thinking, this can't be it. I thought by now I'd be further along. But hear me, pain isn't the end of the story, it's the middle. And the middle is messy, it's confusing, it's dark, but it's also necessary because pain is what refines purpose. You can't carry the weight of your calling with untested hands. You've got to go through the fire so you can come out pure. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Growth always is. God will let you sit in uncomfortable places to make sure you learn how to rely on Him and not the comfort. He'll let the very thing you thought you needed fall apart so you'll realize you never needed it to begin with. He'll close doors you were begging to stay open because He knows that behind them is something that would have broken you worse than this pain ever could. Pain is the soil where endurance grows. It's where faith becomes more than words. You can't preach peace until you've lived through storms. You can't talk about strength until you've survived weakness. You can't testify about God being a healer if you've never been broken. That's why pain can't be wasted. It's proof that you're still in the process. We have this way of running from pain, numbing it, distracting it, pretending it's not there. But what if instead of running from it, you let it teach you? What if you sat with it long enough to hear what it's trying to say? Sometimes pain isn't there to destroy you. It's there to deliver you from the version of yourself that would have settled for less. You see, destiny doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It comes wrapped in contradiction. You'll have to carry vision while walking through heartbreak. You'll have to speak faith while fighting fear. You'll have to love again while your heart still remembers the last time it broke. And that's not weakness, that's strength in motion, because strength isn't about not feeling pain. It's about not letting pain make you quit. You can't grow if you're always trying to protect yourself from being hurt. The very walls you build to keep pain out also keep purpose in. You've got to open up even when it's risky. You've got to believe again even when you're scared, because somewhere inside your pain is the blueprint for your purpose. The very thing the enemy tried to use to destroy you is what God will use to define you, and I get it, it doesn't feel fair. It doesn't make sense. You're saying, God, if you love me, why would you let me hurt like this? But maybe his love isn't about keeping you comfortable. Maybe his love is about making sure you become everything he created you to be, and sometimes that means breaking what was never meant to hold you. Think about it. A seed has to be buried before it can bloom. It's dark, it's covered, it looks like the end, but really it's the beginning. Pain is that soil. It buries you just long enough for your roots to take hold. And when you finally rise, you don't just come up. You come up stronger, deeper, unshakable. That's the beauty of pain. It doesn't just change your situation, it changes your foundation. You may be crying now, but one day you'll look back and say, that pain taught me how to pray. That pain taught me how to fight. That pain taught me how to see myself differently. Pain may have knocked you down, but it also built your character. It taught you boundaries. It taught you self-respect. It taught you how to let go without losing yourself. And when you finally step into your purpose, when people see your strength and your glow and they say, wow, you make it look easy, you'll smile because they don't know the nights you spent wrestling with pain just to stand here. They don't know the battles you fought in silence. They don't know the tears you turned into prayers. They don't know that before you ever walked in power, you first walked through pain. So don't despise it, don't rush out of it, let it do its work, because pain is the birthplace of transformation. You don't come out of it the same, you come out wiser, softer, stronger. You come out knowing that nothing you went through was wasted. Every scar tells a story of survival. Every wound became a window for God's glory to shine through. And when the pain finally passes, you'll realize it didn't come to destroy you, it came to deliver you. There's something sacred about being alone. I know it doesn't feel that way when you're in it. It feels like rejection. It feels like being left behind. It feels like the phone doesn't ring the way it used to. The invitations stopped coming, and the people you thought would never leave did. But there's a different kind of presence that meets you in those lonely places. One that isn't loud, one that doesn't need to be seen, one that whispers instead of shouts. That's the kind of presence that changes you from the inside out. See, we were raised to think being alone means something's wrong. That you must have done something to drive people away. But what if being alone isn't the absence of people, but the abundance of purpose? What if this season of solitude isn't about isolation at all, but about intimacy, the kind that can only be found when it's just you and God, no distractions, no noise, no pretending? Sometimes he removes the crowd not to punish you, but to position you, because you can't hear a whisper over the sound of applause. You've been praying, God speak to me, and he's saying, I've been speaking, but you keep filling the silence. You've been surrounding yourself with people, opinions, and voices just to avoid sitting in that quiet space. But that's the space where your discernment grows. That's where you learn to recognize his voice. You can't build intimacy without time alone. You can't hear his direction while you're still tuned into everybody else's expectations. It's easy to lose yourself in the noise of others, to shape your worth around how people treat you, to measure your purpose by how full your calendar is or how many people clap when you move. But what happens when the clapping stops? What happens when nobody sees you, when nobody calls, when nobody acknowledges what you're doing? That's where you learn to live for the audience of one. That's when your faith matures from performance to relationship. Because here's the truth, people can walk with you, but they can't walk asterisk for asterisk you. The journey God has you on is deeply personal. There are some places he wants to take you where company can't come. Some doors he'll only open when you're by yourself. Because if you're always surrounded, you'll keep depending on others to validate what he already confirmed. Maybe that's why some of your relationships ended, not because they were bad, but because they were loud. And God said, I need to get you alone so you can finally hear me. It's not that you're unlovable, it's that you're in training. He's teaching you how to stand without leaning, how to walk without clinging, how to listen without needing confirmation. You might be walking through a quiet season, but quiet doesn't mean empty. Heaven is never quiet. Angels are still moving. Grace is still flowing. Miracles are still forming. You just can't see it yet. And while you're wondering if anyone notices the effort you're putting in, God is saying, I see you. I see every tear, every sacrifice, every small yes that no one else clapped for. He keeps track of what others overlook. This kind of solitude isn't meant to starve you, it's meant to strengthen you. It's where you learn that your peace isn't dependent on company. It's where you find out that joy doesn't come from a person, a paycheck, or a platform. It comes from presence, and the moment you realize that, you stop chasing things that were never meant to fill you. You stop begging people to stay who are only meant to visit. You stop performing for attention and start living from intention. Don't misunderstand me, we were made for connection. But connection without clarity becomes confusion. And right now, clarity is what God's after. That's why He's simplifying your circle. That's why He's reducing your access. Not everyone can handle where you're headed. Some people were part of your comfort, not your calling. And if He hadn't removed them, you'd still be shrinking to fit the space they built for you. So stop trying to drag everyone into your next chapter. Stop explaining what God told you in private to people who weren't even in the room. Stop apologizing for your boundaries. Stop watering down your vision to make it digestible for people who never prayed for it with you. Sometimes being misunderstood is the price of walking in purpose. But it's worth it because when it's just you and God, you start seeing things differently. That's where you find identity again. That's where you stop needing validation and start walking in revelation. That's where you remember who you were before life told you who to be. Alone doesn't mean abandoned, it means available. Available to grow, available to heal, available to dream again. You can't rebuild in the crowd, you rebuild in the quiet, and when you finally learn that, you start appreciating the silence. You stop running from it, you start seeing it as a sanctuary. You realize that every lonely night, every unanswered text, every canceled plan was divine redirection. You start understanding that solitude was never about separation, it was about transformation. God wasn't taking people from you, He was giving Himself to you. There's power in knowing you're never truly alone. Because once you get that revelation deep in your spirit, loneliness loses its grip. You stop chasing company that compromises your peace. You stop mistaking noise for presence. You stop settling for proximity when what you really crave is connection. This is your rebuilding season. The space that looks empty right now is actually sacred. It's being filled with wisdom, resilience, and clarity. You may not have the crowd, but you have the Creator, and when you walk with Him, you lack nothing. So, the next time you find yourself alone, don't panic. Don't rush to fill the space. Don't assume something's wrong. Just breathe, listen. Let the quiet do what it came to do. Because when it's all said and done, you'll realize the solitude that scared you was the same solitude that saved you. You ever have one of those moments where you look at everything you've been through and wonder how you're still standing? You think back to the nights that broke you, the days that drained you, the battles that almost silenced you, and yet, somehow, you're still here. You didn't quit. You wanted to, maybe 100 times, but something deep inside you said, not yet, not now. That's not weakness. That's legacy. That's what endurance looks like in real time, because quitting is easy. Anybody can walk away when it gets hard. Anybody can give up when the results don't match the effort. But it takes a different kind of strength to stay when it's painful, to keep showing up when it feels pointless, to believe when everything around you screams that it's over. That's the kind of strength that heaven celebrates, not perfection, but persistence. And maybe that's where you are right now. You're tired, you've been fighting battles nobody sees. You've been praying prayers that feel like they hit the ceiling. You've been faithful in places where no one's thanked you, and you're wondering if it even matters anymore. But I came to tell you it does, it matters. Every small act of obedience, every quiet yes. Every moment you chose to keep walking when it would have been easier to stop, heaven saw it. You may not see the reward yet, but the fruit is forming underground. We live in a world that glorifies instant results, fast success, quick wins, immediate validation. But purpose doesn't work like that. Purpose is a marathon, not a sprint. It's built on consistency, not convenience. And if you're going to carry something great, you've got to be willing to endure the weight of it. Some blessings come with burdens. Some anointings come with opposition, and if you quit in the middle, you'll never know what was waiting on the other side of your endurance. See, what you're carrying isn't just about you. That's why the pressure feels so heavy, because it's generational. You're breaking cycles your family never had the strength to break. You're building foundations your children will stand on. You're rewriting stories that were supposed to end in defeat. That's why quitting isn't an option. You're carrying a legacy. Somebody's watching you. Somebody's learning how to fight because of the way you refuse to fold. Somebody's faith is growing because you kept believing when it didn't make sense. You may not realize it, but your endurance is inspiring a whole generation of silent fighters who needed to see that survival is possible. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be present. There's something powerful about a person who refuses to quit. It terrifies the enemy because he can't destroy what won't surrender. He can't defeat someone who keeps getting back up. That's why you've been under so much pressure, not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. You carry something that threatens every lie that tried to destroy you. The truth is, you're not still standing because you've got it all figured out. You're standing because grace held you up. There were moments when you didn't have the strength to take another step, but grace pushed you forward anyway. You thought you were breaking down, but really, you were breaking through. You thought it was over, but it was only the middle. And in the middle, you found a strength you didn't even know you had. Don't you dare quit, not now. Not after all the tears, all the prayers, all the lessons. You've come too far to give up here. You've endured too much to settle for halfway. You didn't survive all that just to stop before the promise. The same God who brought you through the wilderness isn't about to abandon you in the valley. He's still walking beside you, even when you can't see him. I know it feels slow. I know you're tired of waiting. But some things take time because they're built to last. You don't want a breakthrough that fades in a moment. You want one that changes everything. And lasting transformation is never rushed. God's not just building your dream. He's building your endurance. He's developing your character to match the calling. He's teaching you how to keep walking even when your legs are shaking, how to keep believing even when your heart is heavy, how to keep hoping even when the night feels endless. Sometimes endurance doesn't look glamorous. It looks like crying while you work. It looks like showing up when no one notices. It looks like praying with a trembling voice, but that's still strength, that's still faith, that's still victory. You may not feel powerful in the moment, but every step you take is defying the darkness that tried to swallow you. And when the breakthrough finally comes, you'll understand why it had to take this long. You'll see how every delay was divine protection. How every closed door redirected you, how every tear watered the soil of your future. You'll look back and realize it wasn't just about surviving, it was about becoming. Because what you're carrying is too valuable to be rushed. Legacy takes time. Legacy takes grit. Legacy takes those moments where you say, I don't know how, but I'm not giving up. It's the decision to rise again and again until rising becomes your rhythm. It's the quiet courage to believe that even when everything looks still, something is shifting beneath the surface. You might be walking alone right now, but you're not walking in vain. Every step counts. Every scar tells a story. Every setback became a setup for something greater. The pain didn't stop you, it shaped you. The loneliness didn't break you, it built you. The wilderness didn't end you, it prepared you. And now here you are, still walking, still believing, still standing in the very place that was meant to bury you. So don't you dare quit, not when you're this close, not when the promise is within reach, not when your story is still being written. Because one day, when it all makes sense, you'll thank God you didn't give up. You'll thank him for every no that led to the right yes. You'll thank him for every door that closed, every friend that left, every delay that forced you to grow. You'll thank him that you kept walking when walking was all you could do. And when that day comes, when you stand in the fullness of everything you prayed for, you'll realize that the power wasn't in the destination. It was in your decision to keep moving. Because the real victory was never about how fast you got there. The real victory was that you never stopped walking.